gents, boys and girls, welcome to season 5, Nass the pod. Very, very exciting NBA season coming up. I've honestly been holding on to these NBA notes for a little bit over a month. I'm even sweating. That's like how excited I am to even just articulate the greatest league in the world. It's been a long off season. Just a quick recap of last year. Shout out to Last Word on Sports. I was just basically covering, the Grizzlies, and that was really, really cool. First job in the industry. That's the pod, season 5. You already know what we're doing. NBA preview, brief recap of the summer, off-season storylines. I'm going to go through some of my favorite rookies to look out for, favorite rosters, situations, maybe some prediction stuff, and other trendy storylines. Media day, some teams have had media day already. Phoenix Suns, the Memphis Grizzlies, those guys have already, put on the uniforms, gotten the flicks ready. So, it's just a hint that, it's getting to that time. NBA season just around the corner. Before you know, we're going to have NBA and NFL going simultaneously. I'm not going to be able to answer y'all texts. It's truthfully the best part of the year. It's my favorite part of the year. B-Day November. Shout out to all my Scorps out there. Basketball, football going simultaneously. We got fantasy football. Those of you that are following Nass the Pod on Instagram, you guys already know, I'm with all the smoke in whatever league. It don't matter if it's the North Shore boys, the Hallenborg Barika boys. Shout out to all my dogs I grew up with. The Piff Pal League, all my dogs from Merrimack. We used to have a league. But I quickly replaced that with the Ron Jeremy League. Shout out my brother Hans putting that league together, 2-time champ, So I guess I should start off with the rookies, right? Like I said, I've been holding on to these notes for a really, really long time. I know everyone was talking about Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey. Me personally, I really do think that, and he just got hurt in an offseason workout. But Dylan Harper, standout guard from Rutgers, taken by San Antonio. Obviously, San Antonio, they didn't anticipate, basically having the second pick or even be able to add even additional point guard depth, even after acquiring De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, winning Rookie of the Year. The guard play has just been amazing in San Antonio. So it kind of made it a little tricky. I know there was some, kind of mumblings about, is this going to be, Harper's team down the line? Is Fox going to get the extension? Fox, eventually got the extension. People really been mumbling about, can these guys play together? And, Harper had a beautiful quote. I don't know what reporter asked him, but someone sat down with Dylan Harper and they asked him, hey, how do you think this whole thing's going to work with, you, Fox, and Castle? I loved his answer. He even said that he compared his situation to James Harden. Put play style aside, but just the situation that James Harden was taken by the Thunder. They already had 2, basically offensive, cornerstone machine guys in Durant and obviously Westbrook, who wasn't there at that point, but you knew there was something there with him offensively. Harper's point was saying, even James Harden had to wait his turn, and obviously the turn came. He went to Houston, and then he carved out one of the better, shooting guard careers that we've ever seen. So I truthfully do believe that even though Castle, Fox, and Harper, they're not outstanding shooters. I know Fox has gone on stretches where he can, you have to respect his three-point shot. I actually think he's not an underrated three-point shooter, but I feel like he's a guy that you don't want to leave open. I feel like we've seen maybe not enough tape. We want to see more, but we saw that series a couple years ago against the Warriors, and he shot the ball well. And he shot the ball well, the regular season leading up to that, made All-NBA. This is Wemby's most talented player that he's ever had since the Spurs took him 1. And I just think that, Fox wasn't great during those 20 games before he got hurt, but, playing through a wrist injury, it just wasn't enough. It's a whole different situation when you acquire a guy midseason and you ask him to get acclimated with the playbook and new teammates versus bring a guy in the offseason and now he gets plenty of reps, plenty of workouts, plenty of burn, being with his teammates. I mean, that's what training camp's for. It's just a whole different story. So I do expect a formidable 2-man game between at least Wemby and Fox. I forget who the journalist was. It might have been Zach Lowe. I'm going to shout out Zach Lowe. Hopefully it was Zach Lowe. But Zach Lowe started a podcast like months ago, and it stuck out to me. And he said that when De'Aaron Fox was in Sacramento, the pick and roll with him and Sabonis, I don't want to use the term awkward. It would just get a little, not redundant, but almost semi-predictable because Fox is a lefty and Sabonis is a lefty. So you got to imagine like Sabonis at the hub of the offense, like in the mid-post, doing little handoffs to Fox, and Fox is coming around, and the defense is trying to anticipate, obviously they both know they're lefties, so it makes it a little awkward for the defense as to how to defend it. But then once you watch like more tape, people who are naturally used to guarding right-handed ball handlers, you can kind of adjust and just be like, all right, these are two lefties, let's just, force them this way, or, force them to the offhand. Whereas like, because like most of the league is righty, you're obviously just told, hey, force them left, or force them to the corner, or whatever. So I do think that Fox being a lefty and Wemby being a righty, Zach Lowe did mention a wrinkle, and I really do hope it was Zach Lowe. I hope I'm not giving him no free clout, but Zach Lowe stated that those alley-oops, the two-man game, the pick and roll, the screenplay game, like there's another dimension that we've yet to see in terms of Fox as a playmaker. And I still don't even think we've really gotten to see his ceiling as a playmaker. I mean, I'm not going to say he didn't play with talented players, but on that Kings offense, he was really the guy that, they look to score. And now in San Antonio, he's kind of, I don't want to say he's allowed to kind of scale back, but he's not going to face as much pressure to be dependent on to score 25 to 27 points a night. So I do think that when you take into account Fox's mini brief stint in San Antonio, you take Harper, another just dynamic playmaker, rim runner, scorer at the guard position, and he's tall. He's like 6'6". Like that's pretty big for a point guard, especially entering the league. Hasn't even really filled out his body yet. Then you put him next to Stephon Castle, another bigger guard, who he's like developing like by the week. Like he just keeps getting better and better and better. I keep seeing like, I think it was the Guard Whisperer, I think a couple months ago, I saw him just killing at runs, and he's not just like taking catch and shoot threes, he's shooting off the dribble. And I don't want to compare runs to NBA burn, it's a little different obviously, I'd assume, but I mean these are tough shots. Like he's taking off the dribble threes, and that was supposed to be like his weakness, so to say. So if you put these three athletic guys with each other and you just have them attacking the rim, Castle, real athletic guy from UConn, Fox, I feel like people kind of forget the athleticism that he possesses, but because he's kind of developed into this, pick your spot guy in the half court, he doesn't really, I don't want to say he showcases his athleticism as much. You kind of, and his slender frame, that like, if I took a casual guy off the street and I told him, hey, watch this De'Aaron Fox guy, like, what do you think of him as an athlete? He's not like the high-flying rim-running guy that he was when he was younger. But he's also developed other areas of his game to make it, simplify his, scoring diet and shots and whatnot. So he's definitely developed as a scorer. I just feel like those three guys being able to play make, run out on the open floor, finish at the rim. I'm pretty sure Harper, I think he shot over 60% at the rim, which is kind of insane for a point guard. That's like Giannis / like Shaq numbers. I think those three guys can make it work, especially as, I don't want to say Wemby's sidekicks, but those are going to be Wemby's like go-to guys, and then you got Devin Vassell off the bench. I just think that Harper going there is going to be, really promising. I was going to wait on this, but, I know I said I was going to start off with my rookies, but this is really trendy. It's really big, juicy news. For those of you that are not aware or hip, Fred VanVleet, the starting point guard for the Houston Rockets, tore his ACL. He's going to be out for the season, and it couldn't have come at a worse time where now the Houston Rockets, I believe they're a second apron team after acquiring KD. Second apron teams can't use the mid-level exception. They can't trade multiple players in the same deal, and they can't sign and trade their own players to acquire anyone else, any other players. You look at their roster, they are just heavily like wings, like heavily. You got KD, you got Dorian Finney, you got Amin, who can play the one, but he's really a wing. Sengun's not a wing, but he's a big. You got Tari Eason, Jashawn Tate. They just get longer and longer. Then you got guys like Capella, Steven Adams. So like I would honestly say they have the best combination of wing depth and front court depth like in the league. Like that's just without a question. But I do want to, really, really emphasize that Fred VanVleet was one of the more responsible leading point guards in the league since he got to Houston, really. I mean, if you look at his assist to turnover ratio, it's pretty much been off the charts. I'm pretty sure he's been a top 5 guy the past couple years. He's a great shooter from the outside, and you would expect that he'd get, higher quality looks when you add a guy of the caliber of Kevin Durant to your team. It's just a massive blow. Guy that has NBA Finals experience. He had some really big moments in the 2019 series on the 2019 Toronto Raptors team with Kawhi. Guy can defend. He's just one of those perfect kind of glue grit guard guys. He's not a guy you might vote into the All-Star game, but he's a guy that can finish a game with you. He's one of those like real high level, just point guard players, really. And that just leaves a massive void because now it looks like, in my opinion, I think you got to hand the keys to Amen Thompson. I know there's been some, and I've been on social threads and everything. People are talking about, oh, Reed Shepherd should start, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, he didn't even outplay Cam Whitmore last year off the bench. And I know he was expected to take a leap in terms of opportunity, like just get more burn to showcase what he can bring to the table. But a guy at that slender frame, and I know he's gone bigger. I mean, I don't want to quit on Reed Shepherd. I mean, he's a solid talent. They didn't take him that high from Kentucky for no reason. What he brings as a shooter is exceptional. I think he's already one of the best shooters, like definitely in the league. He hasn't gotten a chance to showcase that, but this is what this year was supposed to be like for him. He was supposed to get that opportunity to showcase, hey, I'm Reed Shepherd. He's gotten some Mark Price comps. At least I've heard that from other like media members that I listen to and follow. I just don't know if you can rely on Reed Shepherd in the 7-game series to play 25, 30 minutes a game. And you got to think about the guards he's going to have to face. Like, he's going to have to face guys like Luka, Reeves, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, I guess, for that matter. Kyrie when he gets back, Steph, Anthony Edwards. I know I'm forgetting a bunch of. I'm just thinking about guards in the West, just off the dome. And these are guys that are in good situations that are gonna be on teams that potentially make the playoffs. So I'm just thinking to myself like, damn, I don't know. It's kind of a lot to ask of Reed. I'm really not too sure. I really love the team. The whole reason I was a fan of the whole KD to Houston situation is that he's finally, and there's like, this takes context to understand. Like, obviously he was in Phoenix. He was in Brooklyn prior, but neither of those two situations were good foundational like homes, if that makes sense. Like, he's going to Houston. He's played for Ime Udoka. He has history with Royal Ivy as a teammate and as a friend. I don't know. I just felt like you put all the wing defenders and the rim protectors. Like, this is such a perfect, ideal fit for KD. He has a chance if he's, and I mean. It's not like KD has left my top 8 to 10 players in the league. I still think he's a top 10 player, easy. I mean, before last year, I probably had him knocking on the door at 5. I know people like to take, all the young cats that are putting up numbers right now, but, we've seen KD do it from training camp to June numerous times on numerous occasions for numerous teams. So it was just such a perfect, ideal situation that the basketball gods had to be like, you know what, KD? We're gonna give you one more challenge. How are you and the Houston Rockets going to overcome the massive blow of Fred VanVleet? I'm trying to think of the lineups they could really flirt with. They could go like Amen, like Dorian Finney at the 2, KD at the 3, Jabari, Şengün. That's not a bad 5, but then you got to think about you're basically valuing length over quickness, agility, and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of screen and roll play. I mean, in like 2-3 zones and whatnot, like, I mean, they're a nightmare regardless. In the open floor, like, they're going to get a bunch of deflections because of their wingspans across the roster. Not to mention, like, this is a roster that, yeah, they made the playoffs last year. They just moved off of Jalen and Dylan Brooks. And I mean, I know Jalen Green, he's not a point guard, but that's a guy that had the ball in his hands a lot last year. And Dillon Brooks was, I'd say, arguably your best defender, probably next to Amin. I mean, I know a lot of people would go Amin. He made the all-defensive team, but Dillon Brooks has been challenging guys on the perimeter for years. And I know people queue up their TikToks and their reels of people cooking Dillon Brooks, but Dillon Brooks is a very, he's a high above average defender. Like, he can guard multiple positions, basically 1 through 4. I mean, I've seen it. We've seen it in Memphis. He's not scared. I know he tries to talk and, get in your head, but I feel like all teams have that one, irrational confidence guy. So I feel like Dillon Brooks is that guy. So Houston, I'm not sure. People have been saying things about, like, can they bring in Westbrook? Could they, trade for Drew Holiday? It's like, what assets are you going to move for that? Because Houston has some pretty, like, formidable, like, draft capital coming up the next couple of years. Like, I don't have the picks right in front of me, but I was looking at it, like, last week, like, what picks they have the next, like, couple of years. And they're really ideal picks, some pick swaps. It's a bummer. It's really a bummer for KD because we're literally, it's September, 24th today? We're, like, less than a month away from, tip-off. So, it's just like, damn, I just don't like seeing quality players go down because it just creates hypotheticals. You're thinking, what if? You're thinking, okay, if we had this guy, we would do this. And I'm not king of hypotheticals, but I won't lie. Hypotheticals live in my head, especially with this NBA-ish. Like, injuries matter, coaches matter, GM construction matters. Like, if the Suns had a competent GM or if they had money to go and get other pieces to really complement Book and KD, maybe we're talking about that Phoenix tenure in a whole different manner. So I just feel bad for K, but I know these boys, they're about to get right. I mean, they're still going to be a really top-level West team. But I went from locking them in as like a conference finals team to now, can they win 2 rounds without a point guard? Do they have the money to get a point guard? Their second apron team. To get a point guard, they probably have to move some contracts. It's just, it's kind of sticky. It's sticky. The wound is kind of fresh. And Fred VanVleet's like the last guy I'd like to see this happen to because, like I said, a guy that's a proven winner. I've watched him a bunch, like, during his time in Toronto and just, facing off the Celtics. So it's kind of a bummer. I won't lie. It's kind of a bummer, but, you live and you learn. Houston will still be fine. I just think that they've kind of now descended down the rankings. I'd probably put teams like Minnesota. I mean, I already had Denver and OKC already atop, the West for going into this year. But with the void of Fred VanVleet, they're gonna need someone to simplify the offense. And as much as I've advocated for KD to get some more playmaking burn, I feel like he had the ball in Phoenix, but I don't think he was in the right spots necessarily. I don't think he was used enough, especially in crunch time. It felt like it was too much Booker, which I can see why you'd go that. He's younger, a franchise guy, all that, but you still have KD, and I think KD is also a very slept-on playmaker. I mean, he's already going to attract a double, and he's already 7 foot. These are the same things I was saying with Jason Tatum last year. This guy's near 7 feet, can handle the rock. Obviously, Tatum's at a different point than KD, but just the main point, a guy that's 6'8" and taller handling the rock, as silky smooth as them, and being able to put guys in the right places and enhance, their shots in the half court, that's not a quality that a lot of wings have. Especially those two who can score at every level. So I don't know. We're just trying to maximize because I just know there's a clock. There's a clock with all these guys. There's a clock with Steph. There's a clock with LeBron. There's a clock with KD. There's a clock with Harden, Kawhi, Russ, PG. I'll even say Kyrie. You know what I mean? Dame. Like, there's a clock with all these guys who have been in, like, year 12, year 13 going up. Like, there's a real clock. So I'm just trying to squeeze all the juice I can, bro. Because these are really the guys I grew up with. Like, I want all those guys to go out healthy, in the most ideal situations possible to win, and I want all of them to make the playoffs. I want all of them to make the playoffs. We got to get all this burn. Even when Philly didn't make it last year, I was like, damn, I'm not going to see PG in the playoffs. It's like, damn, he just wasted a year. It's like, it's kind of a bummer. That's enough with my Houston rant. I don't really have a solution for them. I think they're going to have to just go into this year currently constructed just because, like, it's very time sensitive right now to bring in another piece, and even though training camp didn't happen, but trying to integrate him into, the organization and all that. Like, all the rosters have been set for, I don't even know how many months now. So I know I kind of rambled off. I started off with my rookies and I went to Houston, but I wanted to kind of get that off my head. Obviously, we got guys like Cooper Flagg, who's been talked about a bunch, VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey. Some really ideal, rookies out here. Cedric Coward going to the Grizzlies, defensive first guy. I think the Grizzlies, I like their approach. They're trying to go basically pro defense and then let Ja kind of run the show. I don't mind it. I mean, you still have him and Jaren, two top, I'd say 25 to 30 guys in the league. If you're Thomas Isulas, I don't know if I pronounced it right, I'm sorry if I did, but covering the Grizzlies last year, I got to see his philosophies, even though it was really brief. It was only like a couple weeks before the playoffs in terms of like how much burn he got with the team and, what he was able to really do with them. But he was really configuring the offense like all season under Taylor Jenkins. And then, there was some quiet, disputed murmurs about how the offense is being run. Memphis ran the fewest pick and rolls last year. I don't know how you run the fewest pick and rolls when you have a guy like John Moran at your disposal. Like, he's not just one of the most athletic guys at the position. He's one of the best playmakers, passers at the position. I just feel like you need to extract all of that while you have it. And I just feel like it's a shame that it came at the expense of Taylor Jenkins' job. I actually like Taylor Jenkins, but I wasn't against, moving off of him. But the Desmond Bane trade, and then taking a guy like Cedric Coward, 6'5" shooting guard, he's more fit for the 3-and-D type of off guard. Whereas like Desmond Bane, it's not like he isn't capable of playing a role like that. You feel like you're wasting your time if you have Desmond Bane. You're asking him, okay, Desmond Bane, like, go guard this guy, go guard that guy, because he's such a prolific shooter and above average just offensive player that you'd want to integrate him into the offense and actually make the most of his talent. But I think Cedric Coward is going to slide in great with KCP, Zach Edey. The Grizzlies recently signed, I think, last year's Defensive Player of the Year in the G League. I like what they're doing. Cedric Coward, I like that pick. Hassan Newell, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but stretch guy, stretch five. Well, he's kind of like a quiet stretch guy because, he didn't shoot threes at Georgia. But at Montverde Academy, he was also Cooper Flagg's teammate. He shot threes, and it's rumored he shot over 40% as a center. Rebounds the ball well, runs the floor. I feel like he's perfect insurance for the Clint Capella departure. I liked him fitting with Atlanta. I like what Atlanta's doing. Just a bunch of young guys. You got Trey, who's one of the best floor raisers in the league. Heavily underrated. Pat Bev was talking really crazy. I don't know what he was getting at, but regardless, I'll leave that for Trey. Trey, I think, might have quieted him down. But anyways, I just like what the Hawks are doing, around Jalen Johnson, Risha Shea, Okongwu, Dyson Daniels. Like, the timeline of those core players, it makes sense. Hassan Noel, like, I loved that pick because you get basically insurance for Kristaps Porzingis, my guy KP that they brought in the offseason, kind of rolling the dice with him. But I think KP and Trae Young, like, that's like a match made in heaven. Like, obviously KP won a ring in Boston, but I won't be petty. I really do think that if KP can stay healthy in Atlanta, he's going to have a ton of fun playing with Trae because he's going to have a bunch of open looks, lobs. He has wings that can run the floor with him. Risha Shea, Jalen Johnson, they'll find him, for dump offs. And I've always been a fan of just Quinn Snyder and the Hawks. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, there's just something about the way they play. It's really like, I don't know, it's funny. Like, you wouldn't consider them an elite NBA team. But when they have to play the East heavyweights, like the Celtics, like the Knicks, they play really well. Like, they battle. I know they're Mr. Play-In, I get it, but I just love that the GM has continued to have faith in Trae Young. He's basically been like, all right, we're going to continue to build this. Actually, their GM was Landry Fields, the former New York Knicks great Landry Fields. I don't think he's still the director of basketball operations, but I think Landry Fields, I don't want to give him too much credit, but the past couple years, I think he's been the one really making decisions. But shout out to him for, hanging on to Trae, for them to, retain Trae Young and then kind of build this roster from the ground up with young athletes, defenders, rim protectors. he finally got a guy in Jalen Johnson who second best guy on the team in my opinion. I think he's about to be an all-star lock this year. The Hawks also brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, another, basically ball stopper off guard that can play with Dyson Daniels. Now you can do so many fun things with this lineup. You could go Trey, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels, who can guard like 3 positions, and then you could go Jalen Johnson, KP, and be like, all right, like let's go. You got a rim protector that can stretch at the 5. You got Jalen Johnson, who can kind of be your point forward, hub of the offense. He can kind of do all these different things. Trae Young is, the offensive superstar, the machine, gets everyone going. And then you got Dyson and Nickeil Alexander-Walkers who are like, oh, okay, we have Luka and Reeves tonight. Yeah, you guys got them all night. Like you can actually match up with players. You know what I mean? So I really was a fan of what Atlanta did this offseason. Luke Kennard, shout out my boy Luke Kennard. Like I told you, I was covering the Grizzlies last year. One of the best 3-point shooters, in league history. You can just check the analytics. He does not miss. I think he even shot the ball even pretty well last year. I love the Sixers taking VJ Edgecombs. VJ Edgecombs. You already got Tyrese Maxey, all-NBA, star, franchise cornerstone. He's like a walking 26, 27 points a game. It doesn't matter what team he's on. He's good for that, getting better. He's approaching his prime, like a couple years away, but he's in his athletic prime right now. Obviously, the Sixers did an amazing job putting him as a co-star next to Embiid. You bring in PG, and I'm comparing PG to being this like Scottie Pippen role when he was during those late years as a Portland Trailblazer. Now, PG might not be the same defender as Scottie was during that period of time, but his experience as a scorer in the half court, his experience in the playoffs, yeah, he might not be a guy that can get you 25 a night right now, but he's definitely a guy that can give you timely buckets. He can make the timely secondary skip pass, just being in the right place. He can, PG right now, like, and I'm going to say another quality player's name, Nick Batum. Like, are you trying to tell me, like, PG can't go be Nick Batum, bro? Like, Nick Batum is a really high-level role player. There's a reason why the Clippers kept re-signing him and re-signing him and re-signing him. I think he's one of the only players ever to go, like, 5-5-5-5. 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, 5 steals. Y'all kids, y'all can look that up. Since y'all claim y'all know hoop. Y'all look that up. We're the only players ever to go 5-5-5-5. Swear to God. Stuff the stat sheet. PG can be that. Not to mention his experience as a half-court scorer and not just in the regular season and the playoffs. I think that with Maxey's a star, you got Jared McCain, who was on his way to being a Rookie of the Year finalist before, obviously suffering his season-ending injury. You bring in VJ Edgecombe, who's already, like, shown scouts, he's shown experts that he can play defense. He's an athletic guy. He can create a bucket. He's actually been sharpening and polishing his game in the half court. I think I like the mix of youth and this is all to be centered around Joel Embiid. Now I know there's the people who love to come up with the memes about Joel Embiid. I get it. Joel Embiid has got to put it together in terms of his body. It's easier said than done when you've big your whole life. That guy's like 7'2", like 280. There's been rumors that he slimmed down. I've seen some pictures. Him, Zion, and Luka, they've been like the 3 poster boys for, I don't want to say guys out of shape, but, guys that have just been too big for their own good in terms of being in NBA shape, playing into June. I'll keep Luka. I don't like to get on Luka about his size because he was one of the best 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds. He was one of the best, like, first, second-year players in NBA history. Like, if you just go look up Luka's, like, second-year tape, it's ridiculous. There's only a couple guys that have ever reached those heights at that point, that early in their careers. That's, like, what, MJ, maybe Larry, Magic, LeBron. Like, it's a really short list of guys that year 2, they just took off. KD, I think KD won a scoring title in his second year. So, it's a short list, but definitely VJ Edgecombe in Philly. I really do like the pick. I like the situation. Obviously, I talked about Son Noel, Dylan Harper. I'm going to talk about Cooper Flagg and the Mavs real quick. Cooper Flagg, I don't really have to say much about where he fits in the Mavericks kind of like core, because he does so much. He can defend, he can rebound, he can pass, he can score, obviously, he can shoot a little bit. We saw plenty enough in the Summer League. He is going to fit great, and he makes the Mavs front court that was already a problem. He's making the Mavs front court arguably the best front court in the league. You got to think Cooper Flagg, PJ Washington, who's had a revelation since he got to Dallas. One of the understated trades the past couple years. They go trade for PJ Washington and they go to the finals. I don't know if they make the finals without PJ Washington. I'm being completely honest. If you saw that Boston-Dallas series, Dallas didn't have a lot of guys to throw at Boston, obviously. That's why the series was so lopsided, and you know the analytics and the shooting was just too much for Dallas. But PJ was one of their consistent game-to-game players from the day he got there. So you got Cooper, PJ, obviously AD. You pray for I don't want to say speedy recovery, but you hope he kind of keeps it together health-wise. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, who the Mavs re-signed in the offseason. That's a loaded front court. I didn't even mention Najee Marshall, who can play some three. Sometimes he can play some power forward, some small ball four, kind of do a Draymond Green impression. They're really big. And the league is really lucky that Kyrie tore his ACL last year, because if Kyrie hadn't torn his ACL last year, he was most likely going to finish on an All-NBA team. He was going to have a full offseason to just kind of relax, cool out, ramp up, get to training camp, and they'd get a healthy Kyrie. Now, the lineups with a healthy Kyrie, you got Dante Exum, who's been just very steady, very solid since he's made his return to the NBA. I mean, this team is so deep. Jaden Hardy's not even going to play. You got Max Christie, who I think is a stud. He gives me junior Derek White vibes. I love Max Christie. He's a stud. I low-key wish the Lakers didn't give him up. I low-key wish he wasn't in that AD trade. They should have attached Vanderbilt or something else, because Max Christie is a problem. I saw a video on Instagram of him doing a workout with Booker and D'Lo, and bro, he's taking the same type of shots as them. I don't know, Max Christie, if he gets the consistent proper burn in Dallas, we might have a. I mean, he might not be. I mean, I'm sure his odds are 6,000 to 1, but Max Christie as a potential most improved player, don't rule it out. You never know, one injury and, maybe he jumps up to sixth man. Because it looks like the starting lineup is going to be, prior to Kyrie coming back, it looks like it's going to be D'Lo. I'd say D'Lo at the 2. I'd probably put Clay, the 3, Flagg, AD, Lively, or Gafford. Those two are kind of interchangeable. Lively's been kind of injury prone the past couple years, so I'm kind of have a yellow flag up on him. But yeah, D'Lo, Clay. First off, D'Lo and Clay never got to play with each other during D'Lo's tenure in Golden State. You got to think, at least from a shooting standpoint, that's gonna be one of the more above average. Just shooting. We're just talking about shooting. You can even mention scoring too. I think D'Lo is a guy that can score, but I feel like his role has really varied over the course of his career, that he's never really gotten that opportunity to be on a winning team that needs him to score, if that makes sense. When he was in Minnesota, that team with a young AE, they were gonna, they were really gonna take strides, but they didn't need him to create in the half court because they already had this two guard and Ant that needed to score the ball. But now he was gone to the Lakers, he's been asked to do different things. Now he's in Dallas, he's just going to be asked to be the floor general / fill in the scoring void for Kyrie, and I think he's very well qualified to do that. And I think this is probably his best situation in a real long time, especially with all the defenders, the rim protectors. I just think Dallas is going to be one of those teams where they're probably going to sneak up on you even before Kyrie gets back. And people should really be grateful that Kyrie was not, around during he's not going to be around, during this first half. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, like I said, I went on a Mavs tangent, but Cooper Flagg, I have high expectations. The bar is here. I'm expecting Rookie of the Year, even though I got some other rookies that, might put some pressure on him. I'm expecting good things in Dallas. I think he's going to be fine. And the reason why this is perfect for him is because he gets to soak up so much game from Kyrie, D'Lo, AD. We're talking about guys who have signed, supermax contract, guys who played in the NBA Finals, guys who've been in All-Star games. Like, this is, like, that's the perfect, like, these are all, I think Kyrie was the #1 pick. I think D'Lo went 2 in his draft. AD went 1. Cooper went 1. So, like, you get what I'm saying. Like, this is he's getting game from lottery guys, not just guys who ended up being stars. He's getting game from guys that were expected to be stars, and they exceeded, expectations. Obviously, okay, D'Lo, that's depending on what you define a star. But, I mean, D'Lo at one point, like, people were really high on D'Lo. I mean, that guy made an All-Star game in Brooklyn. It's not like the talent isn't there. It's just situations have kind of varied for him and just being asked to do different things. But I do think that he's going to do exceptional backing up Kyrie. I can't wait to see Kyrie and D'Lo together. Like, 2017 Nass, watching Kyrie and D'Lo together, like, that would have been crazy. Like, that really would have been crazy. I remember when Kyrie was on the Celtics. I think he was still hurt or he was recovering from something. He sat at a Brooklyn game, and D'Lo was on the Nets at the time. This was during his All-Star year. He's wearing the Paul George 2.5s, just going crazy. Like 2019, I want to say. Yeah, 2019. And it was just like one of those things like, damn, like I'm seeing Kyrie go up to D'Lo after the game, after his massive game. Like they're dapping up. There's a nice like candid photo they got of them. And it's crazy because then I think a couple years after that, I seen Kyrie, I seen a picture of Kyrie, Tyler Ulis, and D'Angelo Russell at Kyrie's Nike camp. And it was just like, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I love seeing that. I love seeing, like, players try to show game to other players. And then, you just see them develop and develop. And I'm sure that's why Kyrie went up to D'Lo and was just, like, so candid, like, yo, dap me up. Because, like, listen, I've seen you since you were a jit, and you've developed and you've sharpened your game. You've gotten better. And now here you are at the forefront, All-Star game. So shout out D'Lo. D'Lo and Kyrie, it's going to be fun. D'Lo, Kyrie, and Clay, AD, Cooper, PJ, Najee, Jaden Hardy, Max, Christie. It's just going to be, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, yeah, Cooper Flag. I think he's in a perfect spot in terms of experience. He's going to get the keys at some point because, like I said, AD and Kyrie, not going to be around forever, obviously. He's going to get the keys. But the best part is he's going to be on a winning team from the get-go. So we get to see him carve out a role as an impactful guy doing different things while he's simultaneously trying to figure out the Cooper Flag stardom, trying to figure out, like, okay, like, how good could I be in this league? That's a real, like, tricky thing for rookies, to get the luxury of trying to be the best version of themselves while at the same time they're learning how to win. If Cooper Flag was taken by Charlotte, it'd be a whole different story. You know what I mean? It'd be a whole different story. So I think the Mavs is a perfect situation for him. Derek Queen on the Pelicans, he really slipped. And before I'm going to go into a New Orleans tangent in about 2 seconds, but Derek Queen and Zion Williamson can play together. They can play together. Zion Williamson has, shed all this weight. He looks great. You're bringing in this guy, Derek Queen, who's not known for protecting the rim or, living on the glass necessarily, but he's a tall guy that can be your elite, playmaking hub. Like, I'm putting him in, like, Şengün combos. Like, that's how high I think of Derek Queen and his talent, at least offensively. I think he can be that difference maker on offense, and he creates mismatches. He can run pick and roll. Like, you put that next to the shooting with Trey Murphy. They acquired Jordan Poole. Herb Jones is a defender. Alvarado coming off the bench. Like, next to the Hawks, next to the Knicks, next to the Mavs, the Clips, the New Orleans Pelicans, they're right there in terms of the better off seasons. They're really there. As much as I am high on Derek Queen, I didn't anticipate New Orleans giving up a 26 unprotected first-round pick to bring him in. They moved up 10 spots to bring in Derek Queen. I'm just not sure. You know what I mean? I'm just not sure just yet if it's going to be worth it. But you're basically betting on him becoming an all-star, essentially. If you're going to do something outlandish like that, move up 10 picks, give up your unprotected 2026 pick, which might be a really good pick. I mean, there's no lock that this is going to be a great team. I just love the players that they put together. They brought in Kevon Looney to provide some big man insurance. Obviously, the DeJounte Murray, who tore his Achilles last season, he's expected to come back around January. So Jordan Poole kind of gets this, he gets the luxury of not a winning team, but a more talented, seasoned roster like the Pelicans. He gets to run the one until DeJounte kind of recovers, until they kind of decide what they want to do. And you put him there with Yves Missi, who was an all-rookie guy last year. Queen, Herb Jones, Poole, Saddiq Bey. They actually acquired Saddiq Bey, too, in a trade. They got a lot of, competent players. I like the roster. I don't know what the starting lineup's going to be off the top of my head. I assume it's going to be something along the likes of maybe Jordan Poole. Then at the 2 and the 3, you'll probably go either Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, or other way around. They're basically the same size, even though Trey's definitely the superior offensive player, a little bit more sharper in the half court, can get downhill. But Herb Jones is one of the best guys in his role. Didn't shoot the 3-ball so well last year, battled some injuries. If he can reclaim his 3-ball from a couple years ago, it'll be perfect. It'll be perfect. Then at the 4, Zion, and then you got Yves Missi at the 5. But you can do a lot of different things. Derek Queen's actually hurt. I think he's gonna miss a little bit of the start into the season. But when he's up to speed, and Yves Missi, and you brought in Kevon Looney, a champion, an experienced guy, a guy who's played alongside Jordan Poole. I mean, Poole is very outspoken about just being a fan of bringing him in. I like the roster. I'm not gonna lie to you. Jose Alvarado has a player option in next year, so it'll be on an expiring. But I do like the roster. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really do like the roster.